as often in try-scoring positions, or he has perfectly good tries ruled out against Hull FC, which seems to be, no matter where he plays, yeah, that seems to happen.
Quite right, sir.
But yeah, Manfredi's back at the right time, so it's two right wingers that Wigan have got to pick between to see who gets to go on that golden left edge. So that'll be interesting to see. But I'll stop talking about that because I'm sure I've wound people up enough by saying it as often as I have. Did you have anything else you wanted to pull out from this game at all? Do you think this shows much about Catalan, or do you think, similar to Warrington, it's not what they're going to be next week, and they definitely rested a few players, even though they brought a lot back?
Huddersfield beat us last year before the cup final, so don't read too much into it. The
other thing as well, they did bring a lot of players back into this one, but I don't think any of them really played to their full potential. Do you think that's a problem, maybe, because bringing the guys back in, but them having scratchy performances, could bad habits set in? Or do you, like you say, not read too much into it at all?
I tend not to read too much into it at all. I mean, I think you've always got the potential that things might, bad habits or whatever, but I think that the good habits are so ingrained in these people, aren't they? That,
Ian Thornley, who was garbage in the game, isn't going to be playing next week at Wembley. David Mead will be back in the side. So, some of those, Anthony Maria, who's not exactly been great for them this year, he's not going to be there next week. They'll be bringing Remy Casti and Mikel Simon back into the side, who have been great for Catalan over the last 2 to 3 months. So, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe don't read too much into it. Okay, but we'll get on to all that later on. We've got some other stuff to get through first. So, stats reflect a big win for Wigan. Over 400 more metres, 6 more breaks, and 12 breaks in total. 5 fewer errors, 4 fewer penalties conceded, plus over 6% better team tackle success rate. In fact, maybe Wigan might have won by more based on those stats. Joe Greenwood continuing to impress, continuing to build up a good link up with George Williams on that left edge. 2 tries, 8 tackles, 129 metres, 2 clean breaks. Morgan Escaré, 2 tries, 5 tackles, 162 metres. George Williams, 1 try assist, 9 tackles, 118 metres, 2 clean breaks. And Tom Davies, 1 try assist, 176 metres for the best metre maker in Super League. Louis Anderson was the only man to get on the stats roundup. He was probably one of those men in that kind of will he, won't he make the side next week? So he put in a big shift, 122 metres from him for the Dragons. Okay, that is the Super League stuff. Do you want to run us through the standings quickly before we move on to the qualifiers, Sarah?
Yep. So St Helens maintain their 8-point lead over Wigan. Castleford overtake Warrington into 3rd, and then there's a 4-point gap from Wyre back to 5th place Huddersfield. Wakefield, Hull FC and Catalan make up the 8.
Okay, qualifiers round 2. Average attendance was 3,387, even though the highest attendance of the week was seen in these qualifiers over the pond in Toronto. But we start in Salford, where it finished comprehensively 32 points to 6 for the Salford Red Devils against the Widnes Vikings in front of 2,317. Ben Failer was the referee for this one. Do you want to take us through the first and possibly only legitimate fan review from this game?
So Paul O'Brien said, "We only played for 3 minutes, poor in attack, lost too much ball and just looked lost on the field. Some players don't look interested. We're doomed."
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Franny Cummings said, "We're in a tough old position. We didn't show what we practiced. We got to regroup. Words are easy and we have to stick together and back up what we say."
And Granny Cummings said, "I know he's my grandson, but for fuck's sake, what are they playing at? Chuffing Championship, here we come. Hashtag WTID."
Dr. Kukash said, "Shove that Richard Branson, bald is sexy. I may not be the owner anymore, but I'm still going to get onto the pitch and celebrate with the boys. Glory hunting. Also, the boys played well and will be top 8 next year. Hashtag guarantee." Tell you what, if they can keep Jackson Hastings around, they've got a chance of upsetting more people next year. What did the last legitimate review tell us, Sarah?
David Bywater, who's at David Bywater 2, said, "Widnes look in deep trouble. Confidence looks very low, as does their skill set. Going down a division may well be the best thing to happen to the club."
Yeah, thanks to David for getting in touch. Good to hear from you. Sorry that I'm guessing David's a Widnes fan. I'm not certain he is, but I'd guess that. But certainly, Paul, who commented before, is. And yeah, do you know what says it all for me for this game is that their best player only played 36 or so minutes of the game, and he was miles away the most impressive player in a Viking shirt in this game. We've talked a bit over other shows before when I've seen Widnes in person, or when other people have seen Widnes in person, and go down sort of fight to defeats, as it were, and thought this side have still got that fight, that hunger, that desire. There was one moment in this game where I thought, no, that's all gone now, and it was on one of Junior Sau's tries. I can't remember which one, the one that came after a kick, but basically no one turned around and chased for the ball, and I just thought, you could see them all behind, like in the background of the shot on the replays, all just standing still, kind of hoping someone else gets there and someone else does something. And I thought the fight feels like it's gone, and that's shit, because that was the thing that I was relying on this side to have for them to have any chance, and it feels like the fight's gone. They've got a lot of regrouping to do, haven't they?
You felt like back end of the season, it was they were setting themselves for the qualifiers, didn't you? And you thought, well, they'll come good in the qualifiers. They're probably putting things into place. They've got Cummins taking over in time to get something. And now the qualifiers have come, and you realise that actually they weren't even setting themselves for that.
No, I mean, the signings they made seem like sensible signings, and actually they put out what was a really experienced side in this one, the Vikings. Probably the most experienced looking side I've seen them put out all year. But a few of the players, particularly off the forwards off the bench, Tom Alberson, we've given him credit all year. He didn't really show up in this one, I thought. But Alex Gerrard and McGrath Lulawai were completely ineffective, and they just seemed like they were ready to make mistakes and give away penalties. Chris Houston was, honestly, he should have retired 2 months ago when he got injured. I know he's trying to do him a solid by going out there, but did he really help them in any way by being out there in this game? I'm not so sure at all. And when you look through those experienced forwards, and the only player who really showed anything at all really was the youngest player on the pitch, the little 10-year-old baby-faced Ollie Ashall-Bott at fullback. Yeah. And he only played the first half.
Yeah.
He was definitely their best player, wasn't he? What about Salford? What did you make of them when you saw this one?
They looked good, didn't they? I mean, I don't know whether that's just against the opposition that they were playing against, or, whether they are actually sort of okay at the moment.
I agree, yeah.
I don't think that they'd be troubled at all by the qualifier. They're not going to be in the £1 million game, are they?
It doesn't look that way at the moment. They looked really impressive. In particular, that spine. Hastings and Louis, whilst there might be question marks over their moral compass, certainly in their past, maybe with Hastings it's a little bit more, maybe he's misunderstood, but with Robert Louis, obviously slamming a door into a woman's head is fucking diabolical. But that aside, when they put them on the rugby field together, you can watch something here. That looks good. They were both comfortable playing on either side of the ruck. So it wasn't predictable where the play was going to end up from them. They weren't sticking to any particular position. And the offload from Louis for Evol's try, I mean, that's the third part of that combination. Niall Evolds is a fantastic fullback. He's a really clever player. I think they mentioned during commentary that he's scored the second most tries in Super League as a Salford player, behind only Jody Broughton. So that shows what he's got and what he brings, and getting him on the field and keeping him on the field is really good for them. Yeah.
It's interesting because a friend of ours was at the Salford Rovers match last week, and they were saying, Hastings got all the plaudits, but it was Louis that ran the show.
Yeah.
I think up until now it's been Louis and Sau, hasn't it? That's sort of everything's had to come through. Whereas now with Hastings, it just adds that extra dimension to things.
Yeah, it definitely does. And then they've got that power out wide. When you've got Josh Jones in your back row and Junior Sau in your centre position, and those two are just so powerful. And combining up next to each other, it's just really tough for a defence to read it, especially a defence that isn't reading anything right.
Yeah, an illiterate defence.
I mean, it really was. It really was that way. I think even like the forwards didn't really have to play that well for Salford. They did okay. What they did do is not make mistakes, whereas Widnes couldn't help but throw crappy passes to each other or make stupid decisions with the ball in hand, leaving their own half when the game was in reach, if not when they were ahead from that early try that they scored off the back of a Salford mistake. And they just couldn't help themselves from getting in their own way consistently.
Yeah, I read a tweet that said about their hooker, Aaron Eremaika.
I think that was our friend Mark W, wasn't it? Who made that pun. That it was a stretch. I'm not gonna say he wasn't reaching there, but it made me laugh too. Yeah, I agree. Anything more on this one before we move along? Just
disappointing because I know Paul says that they only played for 3 minutes, but it was an entertaining 3 minutes. You thought, they might have sorted things out, and it was just a shame that they haven't, and it wasn't.
Do you think that defeat last week to London and the circumstances of it absolutely crushed what spirit they might have had left? Based on the fact that they were in a winning position, they were also in a position to get something out of it right near the end, and they showed some good pieces of work in that game, and then to lose to a lower division opposition. Do you think that's what are they going to do? How are they going to sort it out? Is what I'm saying, I suppose.
I don't know. I don't know that they can.
Okay, let's move on then.
Sorry, that was a bit bleak.
Yeah, well, I think we all feel that way about Widnes at the moment. Hopefully they can do something that shakes us out of this malaise for them, because there's players in there like Matt Whitley and Aliash Bot, and also Jay Chappell, who inexplicably is being overlooked for some of these ill-performing people like McGrath Luluai. That deserve more. Okay, Toulouse played Halifax on Saturday evening. It was kicked off, I think 7 p.m. it was British time. It finished 28-6 to Toulouse. It was 16-0 at half-time. Another 16-0 at half-time. 1,899 saw Scott Mikalauskas be the referee in this one. I know one thing from this game, and that is the left winger of Toulouse scored a try where he basically ran through or past every single member of the Halifax defence at least once to pick up the ball about 20 metres out from his own line, right on the left hand on his left hand touch line, to finish the try pretty much at the corner flag of the right hand side of the pitch, right up the other end. And that's all I know happened in this game.
Yeah, I haven't seen much.
Nope. So well done to Toulouse. We move on to Saturday night's entertainment. And it was Toronto hosting Hull Kingston Rovers. And this one was tight at half-time. It was 14-6 to the Robins. It ended up 28-22 to Hull KR in front of 7,500 people. 7,540 was the official announced crowd. James Child was the referee. We had a couple of views in on this one from both sides of the divide. So do you want to take us through the first one?
Yep. Tom Andrews, who is at Tom_HKR, said, "Awful stadium, dirty team, corny fans, but 2 points is 2 points in the qualifiers. Never thought I'd say this, but Tommy Lee was fantastic. We learnt how to grind against dirty teams last season, and that's shared today. Hope they get up, just so I can have a holiday and some brew dogs behind the sticks, but better stadium and less shithouse coach."
And that Genghis Campbell, who will have been there on the Toronto side of things in the ground on the day. He said, "I knew it was going to be a bad day when we conceded a try after 3 consecutive penalties. I wasn't overjoyed to see Blake Wallace go off for a head injury assessment, and Craig Hall was far too classy to be not playing for us. Boys kept digging, but it wasn't to be. On the plus side, they brought back the hot dog cannon, so there is that. Not sure if I can handle the stress of the next few games." I guess the hot dog cannon and some of the other goings on, and maybe some of the corniness that Tom referred to, and I'm gonna pull Tom up on that a little bit because